you! Get here now! We need to go! Now! Shoot him! Come on!
You killed that guy!
Because he was going to kill me, you saved my life. This is about survival. You hear something? I hear something.
Welcome back to the most in-depth review of the Alien saga you'll ever see. I'm Mike from Ration, and I'm joined by Matt from Failed Film Student, and today we're going to be playing some Alien Isolation and talking about Aliens. One of my favorite films ever, sequel to one of my favorite films ever, but not the opinion, that's not the shared opinion of both parties. So what's going on, Matt? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yes, I am Matt, the Failed Film Student, and I loved this movie as a kid. I saw it when I was like 10, quoted it, watched it a bunch of times, revisited it when it came out. That quadrilogy was released on DVD. Still enjoyed it then. Watched it again recently. I watched the special edition with all the extra footage. Yeah, I really couldn't stand it anymore. Yeah, I don't think it's a very good movie anymore, to be honest.
Game over, man. Game over. This movie, it'll never get old to me. Like I'm a diehard Aliens fan, but I'm a diehard Aliens fan because I look around and I feel like, okay, so Aliens came out about 30 years ago at this point, and I look around and I see a lot of movies that try to be Aliens that I want to like, but there's nothing that did it like Aliens did it. I see like a lot of, themes going on, in Aliens. We were talking about before we got started here that it's basically a Vietnam War film in space, and I feel like it captures that really well. It also does another thing really well that I don't see done for well often, which is it's a horror action film. And I saw a video about why most horror action films don't work, and it's because they don't create enough sense of dread for your action hero to go through, which once again, you got to have kind of a vulnerable action hero because anyways, if you're going to put them in a horror film. But there's some initial thoughts. If you're tuning in, Bromandos, you better strap in for a really long, very in-depth review of I think what's one of the greatest movies of all time, because we are going to talk about everything today, from our opinion of James Cameron down to just about everything. And we're gonna be playing some Alien Isolation, so it's a win-win.
We're gonna take you back to the 40s too. That's how far we're going. I'm gonna take you back that far.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is actually an allegory of Vietnam. And as a matter of fact, Cameron said that he was like, it's a Vietnam War analogy. So the superior Americans went in and they couldn't conquer this enemy, because their technology and training was inappropriate and they didn't have the wisdom, so it just didn't work. Walter Hill and David Giler, they were the ones that originally pitched the idea, and they pitched it as Southern Comfort set in Aliens. So is that like Southern Comfort? I'm talking about the old one that came out in like 81 with Powers Booth and Fred Ward. But yeah. But anyway, that old movie, that was Walter Hill. David Giler had written that one, and Walter Hill directed it. But yeah, that was another allegory of the Vietnam War. It's kind of like weekend warriors were doing some kind of a recon exercise. It was just a training exercise in the Louisiana Bayou, and it was like, the National Guard versus what they called the local savages, which were the Louisiana rednecks.
Yeah.
And that's how they pitched Aliens. But let's do it like Marines versus the savages, the alien savages.
I guess it sort of works. Is that? Yeah, I knew that. That's how they pitched it initially, but I've never seen Southern Comfort. I know it's kind of like,
Yeah, I'd never seen it. I watched about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then started skimming.
Yeah.
There were some similarities. Of course, the premise is basically the same thing, but there are similarities to, the characters. There's certain situations that kind of end up being transplanted into aliens. One of the biggest similarities to me was the dialogue, the characters and the way they talked. But to me, Southern Comfort seemed more believable, I guess.
Come on, man.
Even though I know the dude, and because that's one thing I was wondering, like, I had no experience, no firsthand knowledge of military or war or any of that. I've heard some like secondhand stories. My granddad, he was in World War II. He did a tour in some little French town. He was stationed in Germany for a while, and then Japan. He told me a few stories, and then I've known vets that have shared some stories. I've watched like war films, a couple of documentaries here and there, but some of it I could kind of see, like, did they really talk like this? I watched one recently where it was Marines, and like 2 or 3 of them, like every other word was fuck, fucking fuck, motherfucker. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's not too far of a stretch, but it just seemed like to me, it's like, yeah, let's just take a bunch of military jargon and put it in with some one-liners about sex, basically guys making dick jokes,
Got some colonist daughters who we need to rescue from their virginity.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't mind getting me some of that Arcturian poontang. Yeah.
Yeah, except yours was a man.
Yeah, it don't matter when it's Arcturian. There was some dialogue almost identical in Southern Comfort. Like, there's this one dude that was like talking about Southern Comfort. He was like, we got some women we gonna put under martial law. So what do you mean, some women? It's like, yeah, these women are expecting some small unit military penetration. Like, okay, so that must have been Walter Hill or Geiler. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on that whole military aspect of it?
Okay, well, yeah, it's ignoring small unit penetration and like Arturian poontang. That's actually one of the reasons why I really like Aliens, is because I feel like they really tried to make it as authentic as they possibly could and give the soldiers as much personality as they can, which makes a lot of them pretty memorable, at least the ones that, survive long enough. Of course, a lot of them die in the first encounter. Yeah, it gives that feeling, that Full Metal Jacket, where each soldier is kind of this hollowed, soulless individual but it has a lot of personality that kind of makes them stand out. And I feel like a lot of films, they try to do that and they just fail. Like, they fail miserably because the characteristics they give the soldiers are just either really dislikable or they're just really boring. Like, a great example, I think a perfect example of that is Doom. It's the 2005 film with The Rock.
Yeah, with The Rock.
Yeah, it's like every character in Doom is just kind of a waste.
Yeah.
You got the one guy who's the rookie and all he is the rookie. You got the one guy who's he's like a sexual deviant and that's all he is. You got the one dude who's black and that's all he is. It's just like it's just really bad. So I mean, I actually really enjoy that military aspect of Aliens because I really enjoy the history of the Vietnam War and World War II, and I really enjoy fiction that tries to encapsulate that in a science fiction setting. Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers is one of my favorite books, and there's another writer who writes. You ever read like Sharp's? I'm trying to remember Hell's Hammers
Nah.
Or Hammers Slammers. I'm trying to remember who that is. David Drake, I think is the writer's name.
Nah.
He was a Vietnam vet, and I mean, he wrote, I think it's called Hammers Slammers. It's about a mercenary unit that fights in big giant tanks and kind of like, you know, throughout the galaxy. But it's all based on Vietnam. So I really like that. And I think Aliens does a particularly good job of, of kind of bringing those soldiers to life and giving that, you know, having that military jargon, which I think actually makes the film a lot more fun to watch, and is the reason why it stands out to a lot of people. I remember going and looking for Alien, and my friend, this was back when Blockbuster was still around. We didn't have a copy of Alien, and we wanted to see it, and so we went to the movie store to go find it. And I was like, do you think they'll have it, man? And he goes, of course they'll have it. No one's going to rent Alien. They're going to rent Aliens. There's no guns in Alien.
Yeah. My thing, though, is how many Vietnam War movies that were made in the late 70s up to the late 80s. To me, though, I know that the guy that played Apone was a real Marine.
Oh,
and he did combat duty in Vietnam. You know, I saw a couple of interviews with him and some behind-the-scenes footage, and it seems like that's kind of like just him.
Yeah.
You know, I ain't gonna take no shit from somebody. You put a gun in my face, especially if your hand's on that trigger, I'm gonna shove it down your goddamn throat. That's just how we do things, you know. So believe that guy, but all the rest of the characters, though, I mean, really, I got to a point. See, I used to love Bill Paxton in that movie. He had some of the funniest lines.
Yeah, definitely.
Initially, but I found that when I watched it again recently, like, all right, check this out. Look, man, okay, we're gonna protect you. Check this out. We got this. We got this electrified ball buster. Yeah, I'm ready. You can't, whatever he says, but he says, man, strap in, man. I'm a badass motherfucker, man. Oh, but that line, that game over, man. It's game over. Fuck are we gonna do now? That's still a great line, but when it gets to the point where they're like, Sigourney Weaver or Ripley's like, well, this little girl survived out here for so many months by herself with no weapons, and he's like, well, why don't you send her, man? Holy Jesus Christ, man, this is a cartoon.
But a very enjoyable cartoon.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of overkill to me.
Yeah, I mean, well, you were talking about. I remember you talking about how the characters, even in the first one, it was more like the enjoyment of the ride more so than actually following the characters. You know, I really like the characters because I feel like they have personality traits that they all exhibit. And they stay pretty close to those traits, even though a couple of them. I mean, they all seem to have their own arcs and ways. Like Hudson is, he talks a big game, but he's really a coward. But at the end, at the very last part of when they're storming the room, he pretty much sacrifices himself so everyone can get away. And it's like,
oh yeah, well, I mean, not to interrupt here. It's kind of seemed like, I don't know if it would say it was a sacrifice. To me, it more like played out like he was just like, fuck you, stupid aliens, xenomorphs. I'm gonna kill as many of you motherfuckers as I can.
Yeah,
because I'm sick of this shit. So.
Maybe not a sacrifice, but he becomes like the badass he always talks about being.
Well, yeah, he goes out in like a blaze of glory, so
exactly.
to speak. Yeah.
It's the same thing with Vasquez. Like she hates authority, like any type of authority. But at the very end, she finds respect for Gorman. Gorman is an absolute. I mean, he's just
a worthless piece of shit, basically.
Yeah, worthless. But at the end, he sacrifices himself for one of his troops. It's pretty cool. Like like I said, I really enjoy the writing. But maybe we should move beyond the characters a little bit and talk about just kind of the story. I know you had a pretty interesting theory about Aliens that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I had kind of like a holy shit moment, because let's get into the development of Aliens a little bit here. I mentioned that Walter Hill and David Giler, two of the guys that had originally contributed to Alien, they did some script revisions and produced it and all that. But yeah, they had pitched the original idea, and then this had to have been like in the early 80s, 82, 83. Cameron had written his Terminator script, but it hadn't been produced yet. So I guess he was shopping it around, and Walter Hill or Giler got a hold of it, and they loved it, and were like, well, let's give this guy a shot at writing a script for Alien, the Alien sequel. So he banged out a 45-page script, not a script, a treatment.
Yeah.
In like a few days, and yeah, pretty much like just locked himself up in his room and ate junk food and hand wrote out this 45-page treatment. They liked it, hired him to write the script, and apparently around that same time he had also written, I don't know the story there, if he just did it on his own, or if Stallone or somebody that was involved in First Blood had approached him about working on a Rambo 2, First Blood 2 script. But he had written a treatment for First Blood, the Rambo 2, and I think his title was Second Blood, The Mission, or something like that. So anyway, he on that for a moment, he wrote some early drafts of Rambo 2, and then Stallone took it and made some major changes, and then Cameron went on to get Terminator shot. It was a big success, so they hired him. Was it Brandywine Pictures is Walter Hill's production company, I think?
Yeah.
They hired Cameron to direct it, to direct Aliens, the Alien sequel. Here's the oh shit moment. I was watching it recently. I watched about the first 15, maybe 20 minutes of Aliens, and I was watching the special edition because I prefer the version with her backstory, Ripley's backstory, with having a daughter that died when she was like 66 or something. Just on the characters for a moment. That added a lot more depth to her character, I think, and then that kind of set up this theme. But while I was rewatching it, I kind of, because it opens up with it's been 57 years, something, they say that later on, but so you see her ship, the Nostromo, is that what the name of the ship from the first Alien?
Yeah, it's like what's left of the Nostromo's just floating through space.
Yeah, but the salvage crew comes on her, and that kind of tells us where she's been all this time, and then it's a lot more fleshed out. It takes a little bit more time. There's reference to the first Alien movie. She recounts some of that in this inquest. And then Paul Reiser, his character, what's his character's name?
Carter Burke.
Carter Burke, yeah, that's right. He offers her this chance to go back to that planet from the first Alien, because they've colonized it and they've lost contact, and she had been there before, so he was like, well, we need you as an advisor. It was around that point, but she initially refused and then said, okay, fuck it, I'll go. And then they had the briefing with the Marines, and I paused it. Wait a minute, this is another movie. I went back and I watched about the first 20 minutes of Rambo 2. Holy shit, this is Rambo 2. Aliens is Rambo 2. With
oh man.
So that's my theory, that Aliens is actually the premise of Southern Comfort, with the same story, like a recycled Rambo 2 script that may as well have been set in the Terminator Future War.
It's been a while since I've seen Rambo 2, but I think I remember the premise of that as well. Like I said, it's kind of been a while though. I guess I'll say this: I'm not all that surprised, just because if Cameron worked on it around the same time, I could see like where they would have kind of drawn a couple similarities from each other. But I also gotta say, I would totally watch the movie you just described, even if that was what it was, like Rambo in the Terminator Future Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I'm not surprised though. I I could totally see that being the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's not some like mind-blowing theory, but it's been a while. Rambo 2, I'd watched it, I don't know, it's been in the last 2 or 3 years. Same kind of thing, like I loved it when I was a kid. You know, one of the best 80s action movies to me. Loved the first one, the original First Blood. And then I watched it, you know, more recently, and I'm like, I can't. But, you know, it's been a few years, but I don't know about this movie, man. This is so ridiculous. Why did he have to turn into a one-man army, basically fight Vietnam War II, and then single-handedly win it? And that's why I say, how many Vietnam War movies did they make?
You've been acquainted with these titles too long, man. Rambo 2 is
I
great.
have.
Great. I love all the Rambo movies. All of them.
Yeah, I still appreciate the first one.
Yeah. Rambo 2 is pretty ridiculous. I think the thing is about these movies, and this is really why I love Aliens as much as I do, is that these are B-movie concepts. I mean, they really are. Like,
yeah.
So the military fights aliens in space. Like, that is so campy. One dude, like one super muscular guy, like takes on all of North Vietnam and rights the injustices of like the lost POWs after the war. Like, that's really unbelievable. These are very B movie ideas, but they're done in, you know, they're risen up. The quality is risen up to be an A-level film.
There's not too much to me separating like a Rambo movie from like a Missing in Action movie.
Yeah.
The major difference, though, is the larger budget, and you've got really talented and skilled artists and technicians working on these movies. I think that's the difference.
It's a ludicrous movie, but I love it.
Those are terrible movies, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but they're enjoyable.
Only thing I remember from any of those movies is that dude getting his brains blown out, and then they put Chuck Norris's head in a bag with a weasel or something, and he ended up biting it. That's all I remember from those shitty movies. Oh, God.
Yeah, these movies are definitely Alien as well. I mean, they're pretty campy. They're pretty schlock. But the way they're done makes them great. I think makes them stand the test of time in ways where so many others have failed. It's the same thing with Terminator 2. You know, and I mean Terminator and Terminator 2. I mean, those are B movies that have kind of become, you know, big budget A-list films that, you know, really influenced the film industry in a lot of ways, because
yeah,
before that time, science fiction was just really goofy. I mean, you know, some guy in like a monster outfit made out of paper mache that just looked ridiculous.
Yeah, you talking about all those like 50s atomic monsters coming out of all the atomic testing.
Yeah.
And the aliens landing and threatening to destroy the world if we didn't stop the proliferation of weapons and destruction of the environment, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
Oh, exactly. You know, let's talk a little bit about Cameron, because Cameron, yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned his 45-page treatment. They somebody actually started calling them scriptments because he did it for everything he did back then. He would write these ridiculously long treatments that basically just talked about every single moment in the film, everything. He was known for it, and
well, but he would do it though before production actually started, right? But unlike George Lucas, who would handwrite these treatments while the movie was in production. Like, oh my god, I don't have a script yet. Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Nah, I appreciate what the guy did in the 70s and 80s.
I mean,
anyway, back to Cameron.
Oh,
and to quote him on that whole B movie thing, he actually said, because he worked on Escape from New York.
Yeah.
He called that like an A-list B movie, which is kind of like, I appreciate him, I guess, as a director in that regard, because he's actually, if you go and look at some of his concept art for Terminator, and then he did pretty much all the concept, the designs for Aliens.
Oh.
Geiger had no involvement. Like, Cameron designed the Queen, I think he designed most of the technology and the sets. That's really why I say it may as well have been set in the Terminator Future War, because that little drop ship, it's similar to the ship from the original Alien, but I couldn't help but think, like, man, that really looks like one of those aerial hunter killers from Terminator.
Yep, yes it does.
And even I think it's like the first shot of the landscape of that planet LV-426. Like, wow, wait a minute, man, that looks just like the opening shot from that first Future War sequence. It's the same landscape, and the technology's similar, the whole set is similar. It just but anyway, the whole point was that to say he's actually a skilled and talented artist. I appreciate him as a director in that regard, but as far as being a good director, I think his storytelling abilities are not really that good. You know, but back to what you were saying about him with his long handwritten treatments or scriptments.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know he did one that was like 80 pages for Terminator, which I just find it really funny because, I mean, if you tried, that's probably the most frustrating thing screenwriters deal with, is that you hear all these stories and none of them are, you know, they're all outside of the norm of what you would actually do to try to get a movie made.
Yeah.
If you showed up with like a 90-page treatment, people would be like, what the hell is this? It's interesting, like his clarity of vision, especially when it came to his art, was just amazing. He did say, I think behind the scenes of Aliens, he's all like, yeah, I basically just took H.R. Giger's designs and improved upon them. And I'm like,
oh, fuck yourself, Cameron.
Yeah.
What?
I'm like,
yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he did say that. Which I was like, oh wow.
Oh god, that's baffling, man. I'm dumbfounded. Oh, but yeah, going back to Alien, the first one, and Geiger, and you mentioned him. There was the deleted scene from that with the cocoon, the chamber that she went into and found the cocoon with like Dallas and one or two other people.
Yeah, that's such an interesting scene.
It's like, man, they should have left that in the movie. Oh god,
so.
That changed the whole movie to me.
I loved that. That's that whole scene. Well, it's interesting because that scene, that scene, there's so many elements in there that show up in, oh man, just about everything. Just take like Duke Nukem, one of my favorite video games, for example, with like the alien, the girls wrapped up in the alien cocoons. Like, kill me. I mean, that features in the second movie in Aliens a lot, but I don't think a lot of people realize that actually did the whole idea of them being wrapped up in cocoons and saying like, kill me and all that came from Alien.
Yeah.
That was in the very first movie.
The Queen was all James Cameron, but yeah, there was no mention of that. But that whole scene, to me, that practically changed the whole movie. My point with that one was the difference between, and why that's just a baffling statement to even compare himself. He's skilled and talented artist, like I said, and he's got a vision. He's got a very clear vision, and he knows what he wants. He seems kind of like a prick about all of it, but if you look at that cocoon scene from the original Alien, the set, it looks like a Giger or Geiger. I can't ever remember how to pronounce it. Geiger? Fuck, I'll say Geiger.
Either one.
Like Giger, Hans Giger. Looks like a painting. It's like some kind of a metal womb or something, like a bronze.
Yeah.
Almost like a womb, and he later took and did some works that he called eroto mechanics. He actually had models that posed, like female models that posed with the alien, the head, and some of the parts from the costume that he designed, and then he took the Polaroids of those and then airbrushed them. And it looks like that set, but like all of his, and you can see his work all over that movie, and that's another reason why I really appreciate Alien. Like, look at his landscape paintings and it's all real and industrial looking with metal and wires and machinery, but then there's all these skulls and it's written penises and babies and like, it's really fucking bizarre. But to me, that's the key difference, though. Cameron is a skilled artist, but Giger is a fucking genius, man. He's a sick, twisted genius, but to me, that's genius. And it shows in his art. So that's a pretty bold, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people will agree with what he said, but that's a fucking cocky statement.
Yeah, he is cocky. He's James Cameron is, of course, very talented. He was one of those few directors who basically knew how to do everything. He came out of he was a truck driver who pulled gigs when he could and worked on a bunch of Roger Corman stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
He went from that, he basically he had a dream that featured the Terminator, so he wrote that as a script and got his start and stopped living off of McDonald's coupons.
Yeah.
But he knew how to do everything from special effects to, lighting and all that stuff. So
yep.
His movies up until Titanic, I feel all have very interesting, unique elements to them. I mean, especially Aliens and Terminator. But it was after Titanic, man, it was kind of like the real Cameron. The real Cameron came out. It's just everything about him nowadays that I see, I just can't stand.
Cocky, self-imported dick.
Yeah, it's I watched an interview with him one time where he basically sat there after Avatar, and he goes, yeah, only one of my movies that really holds up the test of time is Titanic. And I'm like, are you serious? Not even True Lies? Just Titanic, huh? Just that piece of garbage.
Titanic?
Yeah,
you take away the special effects stuff, which a lot of fucking people contributed to. I mean, that stuff was amazing because that mixed real to scale sets, miniatures. I think there was a little bit of CG. Take that out, and it's just a dumb, bloated romance movie with some shoehorned in villain for no reason.
Right.
And that was one of my problems with Aliens. Is in the original, it was and I hate to keep comparing it, but I mean, there's almost no way to not compare.
This is an Aliens review.
Yeah, but in the original, it was one alien, and it was more based in horror, the mystery of it. It was unexpected. Did a great job of setting a tone and building this atmosphere, and that was basically the only threat. I mean, there were some other minor things that concern being out in space, but in Aliens, it wasn't enough that there were dozens and dozens of aliens now, wiped out an entire colony, and there were face huggers all over the place. That wasn't enough of a threat. Now you got to introduce these bullshit let's keep them constantly in danger. I mean, that's not enough to build the tension, to create tension. Let's have this idea of there's a vent. It's got to vent off all this gas. But when the ship crashed, because one alien made it all the way over there and killed those two people on that landing craft. When that crashed and exploded, it damaged that system, the ventilation system. So now that's an issue. It's going to be a thermonuclear explosion, and it's going to wipe everything out in 4 hours. So now it's like a race against time kind of thing. That kind of stuff is unnecessary, and there were one or two other ones. I didn't like the whole fake out thing with the dream. Oh shit, we're getting a chest burster scene. They're doing this shit early in the movie, and it's nope, a dream. I mean, I get I don't really necessarily have a problem with showing some way that Ripley's struggling with that. I don't mind, I don't have necessarily a problem with her having nightmares about it. It seems natural. I guess I just point that one out because I think to me, it kind of fails to really build tension. And he said that Cameron was we wanted to take it away from horror. I wanted to make it more action and terror. Man, I really want to know where the hell these things started with the fake out. It's Dream or the old switcheroo, because it's kind of building up. There's a couple little moments early on where you think it's gonna be Bishop, the android, the synthetic, and they make him real weird too early, because when he's sitting there examining the face hugger and the guy comes up and says, "Hey Bishop," and he just turns around and stares at him for a minute, and you're oh, wait a minute. it's gonna be the same thing, and then nope, wait a minute, that's the old switcheroo. It's the corporate asshole that's the bad guy. When did that kind of stuff start? When did jump scares start? Because it kind of, while I say it is basically the same story as Rambo 2, they at least made some half-assed attempt to follow something that Ridley Scott did by making that overlong first act, because nothing really happens. I mean, there's the setup, here's the premise, here's some characters. They actually did manage to do some character development, which is what I was saying about Alien, is this movie, I actually thought about it. Like, oh, hey, that made me think, well, what was her life like before all of this? You know, she had a daughter who was apparently very young, 10, when she left. She had a husband, possibly. Got me thinking about that, whereas I didn't think about that with the first one. I was like, okay, these are people, but there's like 45 minutes into it before they land on the planet. And then I think it's another good 15 minutes or so before the action really kicks off. So, I mean, it's similar in that way, because the chestburster scene in the original Alien was about halfway through. And then that's when it became what it was, you know? That first 45 minutes to an hour is, to me, that's kind of like one single act. Where Aliens doesn't work, though, is when they go into the nest, hive, or whatever it is, and they see all the people in the cocoons, and the one, is it Vasquez, that goes up to the girl, and she lifts her head up, and I'm like, okay, it's coming. She's gonna go, or convulse or something, and it's gonna be some like, bang! Like, hey, there you go, it's jump scare. And it was exactly that, because I didn't remember that happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, she lifts up her head, and then it's like, it's coming. And then all that happens is she opens her eyes, and it's like,
oh yeah, they always gotta have to.
Yeah, there you go. And then it almost immediate, she's like, kill me, and then it's like, and then the alien bursts out, and then they're like, oh fuck, man, what do we do, man? So it's like it just happens way too quick. It relies too much on like thoughts tension, I think is what I'd call it. And yeah, granted, Ridley Scott did some of that same shit. He did two of them, two fake outs, misdirects, I guess is what they're called, in the first one with the goddamn cat. When did the jump scare thing start? I guess it can be pretty effective. I understand why it's still used. I really wish somebody would find a more like a better way that's not so damn cheap to effectively scare people, because that's basically like a startle, and then you're like, oh hey, which I mean, I guess is the point.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, I don't dislike it here though, because I think that there's so much. I feel like this film deserves the right to give us a couple jump scares if it wants. There are horror movies where they're very, very bland. There's really not a lot going on there. There's no interesting motifs, or there's not a lot of, I guess, what is it? I don't want to say intelligence, because that sounds kind of mean, but there isn't a lot of thought really going into the film or its themes or motifs. And there is in Aliens. I mean, there's a lot of work going on there. So if they want to throw in a couple jump scares every once in a while, like, I don't really mind it.
I mean, I don't. Well, what I was saying was I don't necessarily mind the jump scare. It just is like here. I think it would have been more effective to just do the chest burster scene, because to me, using a jump scare, and I had a problem with this. Like, oh great, I think it started with that old noir thriller movie, The Cat People.
Oh.
When the woman is walking down this dark street at night, and she's kind of being stalked, and then off screen the woman stalking her turns into a cat, and then you hear this like growl, like this cat growl, like grrr, and then this fucking bus screeches in, and she's like, oh. And I think that was technically a jump scare. I can't remember what it's called. It's been around for a while, the technique. And to me, I just kind of find it cheap. I guess that's I guess, like you said, these are actually just B movies, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they gotta startle people a little bit every once in a while.
Yeah, I just think that it would have been a lot more effective because, man, I watched that, the chestburster scene from Alien. I must have rewound it like 5 or 6 times and watched it over and over, and then I went online and found the because the copy of the one I had didn't have any of the deleted scenes on it.
Yeah.
But I went and found the extended version, and it's way more bloody. There's just blood squirting. Veronica Cartwright actually falls into blood. And I, for the first time, I've seen this movie, oh gosh, I don't know how many times, and I finally noticed that I think you can actually see his heart beating. Like when it kind of comes out, you can see the dude's heart beating and the blood spurting out. Like, god damn, that is damn effective.
Gnarly.
That is a disturbing, and then just the noises he was making, it's borderline cartoony. But I'm not saying, recreate that, but I'm just saying instead of relying on a jump scare, let the characters, let it happen more naturally. I'm not saying that that's necessarily something that wouldn't happen naturally if somebody you thought was probably dead because things look pretty bleak, probably is dead. Then you lifted her up and her eyes suddenly popped open, you'd be like, oh shit, but to me it just would have been a lot more effective, and I guess I am nitpicking.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking the shit out of this one thing, but it's just a part of the larger problem that I have with this movie. It's just instead of letting things happen more naturally, it falls back on cheap scares and unnecessary shit. Like what I was saying about the alien threat isn't enough. Now there's got to be, this whole thing is gonna self-destruct in a few hours by itself. So we gotta go fix it. There's another threat,
The screenwriters try to give, they do timelines, or they do deadlines. Like the deadline is, it's a mechanic used in all sorts of stories. It can be pretty effective. Other times it can be kind of annoying, but Aliens is really more of a action movie than it is a horror movie. I think the horror elements in it work, but it's primarily trying to deliver more of an action film.
Yeah.
Going to where, like James Cameron, when you mentioned James Cameron said it's more of an action movie that focuses on the terror of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the running motifs in that movie is that it's really supposed to represent a nightmare, and that's why when you first kind of meet Ripley and she has that chestburster moment, it's a dream. It's that she's having nightmares. She's kind of going back into this nightmare landscape. It's the overwhelming enemy that you have to run away from, but you can never seem to get away from. It's kind of like she's going deeper and deeper into the nightmare. And that's why Newt actually says, Newt has trouble sleeping too, and at the very end she says, "Can I dream now?" It's it's kind of like the nightmare is finally over. I think that's what James Cameron said about it himself.
I
don't really have a problem with that kind of stuff. Just like it's as long as it's not all they do or all that's there.
Yeah, I don't either. It just I know I've seen this said before. Anytime I read a review or there's some discussion, this movie really kind of established a lot of those things that other movies tried to copy. It's been copied and copied. Not, I'm not trying to totally discredit it or say anybody's wrong, but weren't some of these kind of military action, even sci-fi action tropes, I guess, I don't know if that's the appropriate word, but weren't they kind of already established though at that point? Because the year before there was Rambo 2, and in that same year there was Commando. There were I know it's not those aren't sci-fi movies, but they are 80s action movies. Then you had what were some other movies like that? Yeah, there was Terminator. There were the 2 Rambo movies. There was like,
Pretty sure Mad Max came in around that time.
yeah, Mad Max and Mad Max 2 had already been out before then. Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And these are, I know Aliens would probably be classified as like a sci-fi. I'm just questioning how many of these things that everybody says that this movie established, how much of that was actually Aliens and it wasn't other 80s action movies.
The thing is, like...
Because can you give me like some examples of some of the stuff that...
Oh, that's inspired by Aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mean like Halo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, clearly, like, maybe I should say every video game where you fight aliens is pretty much based off Aliens. Even with lifted characters, where you got Halo, where it's Sergeant Apone. Or actually, it's like AJ Johnson, but he's like the same guy. It's almost like every film that has either where they fight aliens or it's like Marines fighting aliens, it usually tries to mirror it in some way. Maybe I meant more video games.
Yeah.
Than movies.
Yeah. I just can't ever. I can't ever get like a straight answer of what did this establish that other 80s action movies didn't already establish, aside from games and then shitty movies that like Galaxy of Terror, or oh god, what are some more Aliens ripoffs? Was that one of them? When was that released? Deep Star 6, was that one?
Yeah, no, there were a lot. I don't know necessarily if it like did anything new, because I mean there isn't really new stuff out there. It's more like different ideas pulled together. I think the differences between the others and Aliens is that Aliens seem to be done on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
And Aliens is kind of like the seminal movie that kind of pulled it together. I mean, if you think about it, like, what's like the best sci-fi action film of all time?
The best sci-fi action film of all time?
Maybe like the top 5.
Oh gosh, I don't know, man. That's a. It really depends. I'm sure most people probably say like Star Wars, even though I don't consider that sci-fi at all.
Yeah.
Aliens, Matrix, Terminator. To me, it's got to be like Terminator or Terminator 2. I really enjoyed Predator. I'd watch that again and enjoy it.
Yeah, I guess what I was getting at is that if you asked for top 5, I mean, I can almost guarantee that like a lot of people would say Aliens, right? Like, Aliens would be in that top 5 somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it would be Aliens, Star Wars, Terminator 2 probably, and then... Shit, what was the one I just said? The Matrix. Yeah, The Matrix.
Yeah. Now, if we narrowed that down to the 80s, I would probably say Aliens.
Yeah, I think it's almost universally accepted that Aliens is definitely top 5.
Is it, I mean, did it, like, pioneer something? I don't know about all that, or if it like came up with new stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is aside from inspiring video games or spawning a bunch of cheap ripoffs, how was this a pioneering movie? How was this like visionary? Because that seems to be the thing that a lot of reviewers or discussions kind of go to, is like, well, this is like, kind of like set some kind of standard or something, but it already existed though.
I'll say this, I did remember an example that's very obvious.
Okay.
Dog Soldiers would be one for sure. The movie that's basically aliens with werewolves.
Okay.
I would say it sets a standard for pretty much any movie where it's like you've got a group of Marines. Anytime you get the whole Marines versus the creatures set up, or the soldiers versus the creatures set up, it's pretty much either Predator or Aliens, one of the two. And anytime you get like alien invasion, you see a lot of themes kind of taken from just the Alien franchise, whether or not it's just kind of a nod, like a tip of the hat, or it's more how the aliens are themselves, which once again, might be more of me talking from like a gamer perspective.
Yeah. Okay, so it inspired a bunch of good video games.
Yeah, maybe that's what it
And led
inspired.
to a bunch of shitty late 80s, early 90s ripoffs. I guess there wouldn't be like Doom or Halo.
It's a land. I mean, it's yeah, I'd say it's a landmark in its own right.
Well, and see, that's kind of my view. And again, I'm not like trying to discredit or just trash this movie or disparage anybody's work, because that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this movie is the effects. Some of the stuff that they did, you know, to pull off the effects. The Queen it's cool. I like the head of it, and I like that it's attached to that tube thing. Why did they put those little stupid arms, those little useless T-Rex arms in the front? Like Meet the Robinsons, like the T-Rex is like, I've got these tiny arms and they're useless. Oh man. But I like some of that stuff, like the when the Queen pops out of nowhere and the tail goes up through Bishop, like that. I don't know if you watched any of the behind the scenes on the effects work, but they actually had taken that material, and I think they stumbled on some way, like when it became wet or something, it was really flexible, so they just kind of like stuffed it up under his shirt. They had this like real thin cable, and they pulled it out of his shirt to make it look like it was coming in from behind, because one of the guys that had worked on that said that when the movie came out, that was something that people didn't really understand, how they pulled off that effect. And then they had made this like life-size dummy of Lance Hendrickson that looked like pretty realistic, man. It looked just like him. There's this footage of the guy standing off to the side, like throwing when he gets ripped in half and his torso flies across the across the floor. But anyway, apparently they just did that shot over and over and over, and it was a guy holding the dummy torso throwing it, and then every take they'd have to wipe it off, clean the floor, and then pour more milk on it and then throw it again. So that kind of stuff is why I love movies. I love making movies. I don't know, man. I was really disappointed in the whole, basically the whole movie. Like, I appreciate the technical side of it. I like the Ripley character a whole lot more. I thought Bishop was cool, and I think he was really underused in that movie.
Yeah, he's not in it very much.
Yeah, they should have had more Bishop. less what's his name, man? It's game over, man.
Bill Paxton?
Less Bill Paxton, more Lance Hendrickson, you know? When the movie really started to go downhill for me, and when I just kind of like lost interest and then started nitpicking everything, was when they are getting ready, they're gearing up, and they are about to, get on their drop ship, and you got that little drum, that cadence, that
yeah.
Like, I was really wishing, why didn't they just leave that out? Leave that. Don't have soundtrack there.
Yeah, you mean the military drum cadence? Like, it's like...
Yeah. Like, this is taking me out of it. Nah, there's stuff I appreciated about it, but it just reminded me too much of Rambo 2. The designs and the tech and the locations reminded me too much of the Terminator Future War. And then it didn't... I get what he was going for, what they were going for with it, with the whole Vietnam War thing and more action. But I wonder if they meant to turn the aliens into the giant ants from Them. Because that's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. They go into the hive and they're like, oh, the Queen. We have to take out the Queen. And it's just the military goes in and starts wiping them out. And then you get one by one. Some of them get actually killed by the ants. Some of them die in accidents. Some of them, like one guy, the tunnel caved in on him. One guy got set on fire, kind of like in Aliens. I was trying to keep count of how many actually got killed by aliens, because I counted one that got set on fire, one exploded, one got one fell, one got knocked out, one shot and got sprayed by the acid, so that was an accident. Like, oh man,
it's fog of war, man. Most people die by all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess to sum up, there's stuff that I really appreciated. I appreciated, for the most part, the effects, technical side of it. Cinematography, I guess, was okay. I don't know, man. I just didn't really like this movie much at all. So.
But you did at one point. You did like it.
I did. When I was when I was a kid, I loved it. I loved it. And then as a teen, I revisited it and was quoting it all the time. You know?
I guess I'll feel like I'll wrap up this way then. I mean, so the thing that sucks about entertainment is that, and probably what drove me to go to film school, probably drives me to even be on YouTube, is that there isn't really a lot as much entertainment, or at least great entertainment out there as we may think. And by that I don't mean there's only like, you know, a handful of movies and the rest suck. No, I mean, yeah, great movies. I think good movies come out all the time, even though you may not hear about them.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, there's a finite supply of stuff that I really enjoy that's done in a vein that I really like. Mm-hmm. And I'd have to say, man, I mean, Aliens, you know, even though it's been out for 30 years, it's still, and you know, even though stuff came out before that, you know, The Thing.
Yep.
The Aliens is still like a seminal film that just works on like a lot of levels, from production design to like the way the characters are and act. I mean, it's not perfect, but once again, this is a B movie. This is a schlock film that was, you know, made with a schlock film budget and turned out the way it did. For me, it's, you know, it's always going to be kind of like a stand, and it's always going to kind of stand the test of time, even though I've seen it as many times as I have. You know, nothing beats like the first time I saw it, you know. If I stared at it too long, I'm probably sure I'd probably get I'd be like, yeah, I'm done with this movie. But I still love it. But yeah, that's probably all the time we should give this review. It's for anyone who actually watched the whole thing, you are a rock star.
Yes, thanks for watching. You're awesome. You're
freaking awesome. Thanks for watching this whole review. If you liked it, then you know what to do. Bromandos, seek and destroy our like and subscribe buttons. If you disliked it, then yeah, you know, well, there's always that dislike button too. And
whatever.
We'll see you all next time for some more Alien Isolation and Alien Soccer review.
Yeah, and to quote Bill Paxton, if you watched it the whole way through, you're a fucking badass, man. Nobody can fuck with us, man.
Nukes, knives, sharp sticks, and game over.
It's game over, man.
Yo, Bromanto! Thank you for watching another video here at Ration. If you liked what you saw, you want to see more macho gaming videos in the future, more action movie content in the future, then you know what to do. You gotta seek and destroy that like and subscribe button below, and I'll see you all next time, real soon, for more action. THOMPSONATOR is out!